Let's do something different. Don't skip this. For the next 10 seconds, I want you to do nothing. No scrolling, no thinking about what's next. Just sit there, because this right now is exactly how your life is disappearing. Not in big moments, not in dramatic ways, but like this, quiet, unnoticed, gone. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. You don't waste your life in years. You waste it in hours. 1 hour you said didn't matter. 1 hour you thought you'd make up later. 1 hour you traded for comfort. And you've done it so many times. It feels normal. That's the trap. Because nothing feels wrong. No alarm goes off. No one stops you. You just keep saying, I'll do it tomorrow. But tomorrow doesn't fix wasted time. It repeats it. And the scariest part? The person who wastes today will waste tomorrow the exact same way. So before you keep watching, ask yourself this. If someone showed you exactly how you spent the last 24 hours, would you respect that version of yourself? Or would you realize you've been slowly giving your life away without even noticing it? Because this story might be the moment you finally do. In a small town where nothing seemed to move too fast, there lived a father who spent his days fixing things. Broken clocks, rusted tools, anything people brought him, he repaired it with patience and care. His hands were rough, marked by years of work, but steady. Every morning, he woke up before the sun, opened his workshop, and started his day without hesitation. There was no drama in his life, no shortcuts, no sudden success, just consistency. Day after day, he showed up, focused on what was in front of him, building a life piece by piece. He wasn't wealthy, but nothing in his life was falling apart. Everything had structure. Everything had direction. His son, however, lived under the same roof, but in a completely different reality. While the father respected time, the boy treated it like something unlimited. He woke up late, long after the morning had already passed, moving slowly as if the day would wait for him. His afternoons were empty, filled with wandering, laughing, sitting around with friends who were just as lost as he was. There were no goals, no urgency, no sense of pressure. From the outside, it looked like freedom. No responsibilities, no stress, just time to enjoy life. But what looked like freedom was actually drift. Because while the father was building something steady, one day at a time, the boy was doing the opposite. He wasn't losing his life all at once. He was losing it slowly, in hours that felt like nothing. The boy didn't think he was wasting his life. That's what made it dangerous. To him, everything felt normal. Nothing looked broken. Nothing felt urgent. And that's exactly how time slips away quietly, without resistance. He had a simple way of thinking about things. If something didn't have to be done today, then it could wait. And if it could wait, then it should wait. So everything became later. Learning something new? Later. Helping his father? Later. Fixing his habits? Later. It wasn't laziness in the way people usually imagine. He wasn't avoiding life, he just kept postponing it. And the more he delayed, the easier it became. Because every time you choose comfort over effort, your brain learns that pattern. It starts to feel right. It starts to feel safe. His days were full, but not meaningful. Hours passed quickly, filled with conversations that led nowhere, laughter that didn't build anything, and moments that disappeared as soon as they ended. He and his friends talked about plans all the time, big plans. Leaving the town, making money, becoming something more. But those conversations never turned into action. They were just ideas, repeated over and over, until they lost all weight. Because talking about a future is easy, building one is not. Meanwhile, life outside of him kept moving. People were learning, growing, changing. The world didn't slow down just because he wasn't ready. But he didn't feel it yet. That's the problem. When you waste time slowly, you don't feel the loss immediately. There's no pain in the moment, no consequence you can touch. Just a quiet shift from potential to regret, and by the time most people notice it, they've already lost more than they can get back. At first, the father thought this was something that would pass, a phase, something his son would grow out of once he understood life a little more. So he did what most people would do. He tried to guide him with words. In the evenings, after a long day of work, he would sit down beside his son and speak calmly. Not with anger, not with pressure, just quiet advice. He told him about discipline, about learning early, about how time doesn't wait for anyone. The boy listened. He nodded. Sometimes he even agreed. But agreement is easy when nothing changes afterward, because the next morning, everything repeated itself. The same late start, the same empty hours, the same promise of tomorrow. So the father tried again, this time more direct. He warned him that comfort today could become regret later. That time, once gone, never comes back. But the boy didn't feel the weight of those words. He smiled, relaxed, and said the same thing he always did. I'll start tomorrow. And that's when the father understood something deeper. This wasn't a problem of knowledge. His son already knew what was right. He simply didn't feel it. And people don't change when they understand something. They change when they experience it, when something hits them hard enough to break through comfort. So one day, the father stopped. No more advice, no more reminders, no more repeating himself. Not because he gave up, but because he chose a different way, a quieter way. He realized that words had reached their limit. If his son was going to change, it wouldn't come from another conversation. It would come from a moment he couldn't ignore, a lesson he would feel, not just hear. And if you've ever heard advice you knew was right, but still didn't act on it, you're not alone. That's exactly why stories like this matter. So if this is hitting you, stay with it and consider subscribing, because the next part is where everything starts to shift. That evening, after the conversation had ended and the house fell quiet again, the father sat alone at his workbench. The tools were still there, scattered from the day's work, but his attention wasn't on them. Instead, his eyes moved slowly across the room, as if he was searching for something, not an object, but an idea. Something simple enough for his son to understand, yet strong enough to make him feel what words never could. After a moment, he stood up and walked toward a small drawer tucked beneath the table. It was old, slightly worn, the kind of place where forgotten things are kept. He opened it and reached inside, pulling out a glass jar. Inside the jar were small pieces of paper, each one folded neatly. There were many of them, filling the jar almost to the top. To anyone else, it looked ordinary, worthless, even. But the father held it for a second longer, as if he knew exactly what it represented. The next morning, he called his son. The boy walked in slowly, still carrying the same relaxed attitude, expecting another lecture he wouldn't take seriously. But once again, none came. The father simply placed the jar into his hands. "Take this to the market," he said calmly, "and ask people what they think it's worth." That was it. No explanation, no hidden meaning revealed, just a simple task. The boy looked at the jar, turning it slightly, hearing the soft sound of paper shifting inside. It didn't look like anything important, but at the same time, it didn't matter. The task was easy, no effort required, no real responsibility. "All right," he said casually, and just like that, he walked out the door holding something that seemed completely meaningless, not realizing it was about to show him something far more valuable than anything he had ever taken seriously before. The next morning, the boy carried the glass jar to the market, walking the same familiar road he had walked countless times before. Around him, everything was already in motion. Vendors calling out, people bargaining, carts rolling over the uneven ground. It was the same place he had seen every day, yet he moved through it without really seeing it. When he reached the first stall, he placed the jar on the table and asked, "How much would you pay for this?" The man picked it up, shook it slightly, hearing the soft rustle of paper inside. He looked unimpressed. "A few dollars," he said, handing it back. The boy nodded and moved on. At the next stall, someone examined it a bit longer. "Maybe 10, he said. Another didn't even bother looking. "Not worth much," he replied. As the boy continued asking, the answers stayed the same, different numbers, but the same meaning. To everyone, it was just a jar filled with useless paper. Nothing special, nothing important. By midday, the boy had heard enough. He slipped the jar back into his hands and began walking home, his mind slightly more alert than before. When he returned, he told his father everything. "It's not worth much," he said. "People don't see any value in it." The father looked at him quietly, then gave a small nod. No surprise, no correction, just a calm acknowledgement. And in that moment, something subtle began to form in the boy's mind. Value isn't about what something looks like on the surface. It's about what people understand about it. And most people don't look deep enough to see what really matters. The next morning, the father handed the glass jar back to his son, his expression calm but slightly more serious than before. The boy took it, still unsure what he was supposed to learn from all of this. But before he could ask, the father spoke. "Go back to the market," he said, "but this time, don't ask them what the jar is worth." The boy frowned, confused. Then the father continued, slowly and clearly. "Ask them what each piece of paper inside it is worth." The boy paused, unsure if he understood correctly. He opened the jar, pulled out one of the folded papers, and unfolded it. On it, written in simple handwriting, were just 2 words: 1 hour. He looked up, puzzled. "An hour?" he repeated quietly. It didn't make sense. The father didn't explain. He simply nodded, as if the answer was something the boy had to discover on his own. So once again, the boy walked toward the market. But this time, something felt different. The jar felt heavier in his hands, even though nothing had changed. When he reached the first stall, he hesitated before speaking, then finally asked, "How much is 1 hour worth?" The man looked at him strangely, then laughed. Not politely, but loudly, drawing attention from others nearby. The boy felt the heat rise to his face, but he kept going. At the next stall, the reaction was sharper. "What kind of question is that?" Someone snapped. "Don't waste my time." That sentence hit him harder than anything else. Don't waste my time. He moved from one place to another, asking again and again, but the answers didn't change, only the reactions. Laughter, irritation, dismissal, and slowly, for the first time in a long while, he began to feel something he couldn't ignore. Just as the boy was about to leave, feeling embarrassed and frustrated, he noticed an old man sitting quietly at the edge of the market. Unlike everyone else, the man wasn't busy shouting or rushing. He simply sat there, writing letters with calm focus. Something about him felt different. The boy walked over and asked the same question one last time, holding out the small piece of paper that read, 1 hour. The old man looked at it, then at the boy, and instead of laughing, he gave a gentle smile. "That," he said softly, "is the most valuable thing you own." The boy frowned, confused. The old man continued, "You can waste it. You can ignore it. You can trade it for comfort. But once it's gone, it never comes back. Not for anyone." The words didn't sound loud, but they landed heavily. For the first time, the boy understood what he had been losing: not money, not opportunity, but time itself. He walked home in silence, the noise of the market fading behind him. And the next morning, something changed. He woke up earlier, not perfectly, not dramatically, but differently, because real change doesn't come from being told what to do. It comes from finally seeing what you've been losing all along.